There's hunger, there's malnutrition, there's poverty, there's all of these things. So why would we care about climate change?
Someone needs to talk about it because we are 10, 15 years too late in this entire fight for climate change.
What's the most shocking fact you've uncovered in this process?
Animal industry is responsible for the highest amount of deforestation. The shooting industry, let's say all your filmmaking, all your web series, overall the world, causes more carbon emissions than your entire hospitality industry. I remember this one time when I had, in my initial years of meditation, I had eaten red meat. And the next day, I was just like, what's wrong with my mind? I don't know how to describe it, but it was a weird feeling.
What does sustainability mean to you?
Just being mindful of what I'm consuming and how I'm consuming it. Promote sustainable products. So, for example, this one, these are made out of a packet of chips.
Really? I love that. Welcome to Sustainability with Shreya. Today we've got Aalekh Kapoor on the show with us, who is an actor and an environmental content creator. Aalekh, thank you for joining us. I know it's your first podcast, so I'm really honored to be on the other side of the microphone.
Thank you for calling me, Shreya. And really honored to be here too. It's a really nice set.
Thank you. We've tried to keep it as sustainable, as eco-friendly. There's a lot of stuff that's thrifted. There's a lot of stuff that's secondhand. The carpet, for example, we to make sure that, because a lot of these rug carpets, they are woolen. They're made from wool.
All right.
So these are made from recycled plastic bottles and they're completely vegan. So I think that was the hardest part of sourcing vegan rugs.
Yeah. It is a little difficult to source sustainable materials now, I would say. I hope it gets easier in the coming few years.
So we try to be as creative as possible, and keeping the plants alive is a whole separate thing. It's a whole job in itself. But yeah, I'm super excited to dive into your journey, especially the pivot from Bollywood to environmental content creation. Would you like to touch upon that and how that came to be?
So it was not really a pivot. I'm still an actor. So I try to dabble between both these things now. Right now I'm shooting for something. So while I'm shooting for it, I'm also writing for scripts. And, in the hotel room, I'm shooting for my next video. But this happened because I felt that there are certain things that need to be talked about and no one's really addressing those concerns, especially climatic related issues. There are a lot of content creators out there who are talking about finance, who are talking about lifestyle, who are talking about everything else under the sun, but no one was actually talking about climate and environment, which is an existential issue for us because obviously in the next 10, 11 years, if we don't do anything about it, it'll be very difficult for us as a species to survive. I mean, so everything else comes secondary to this is a burning topic which you need to talk about. I didn't expect that it'll suddenly blow up or do so well. I just did it because from a pure space where I felt that there are things I need to know and there are things that people don't know and I need to try and connect the gap. And because of my experience of being an actor and I'm comfortable in front of the camera and I like writing also.
Combine both of those skills.
Yeah, I thought might as well combine both these skills.
Yeah.
And let's see what happens.
But that's interesting. You say that it's an existential crisis and we all know that. But the reason people don't want to create content in this space is because they think, one, it's not interesting enough, and two, people don't care about it.
It's true. It's not like people don't care about it. People definitely care about their survival. They just don't want to accept it right now.
Why the denial?
It's like the ostrich thing, right? They want to keep their heads under the sand because, when somebody is it an ostrich or is it the other bird? But it happens that some birds, when there's a prey, they will dig their head into the sand because they don't want to see the prey. But it doesn't mean that the prey is not there. So because people are so busy in their lives, daily lives, that, at the end of the day, when they're browsing through reels and I'm competing with, let's say, women in bikinis or some comedy content or some kind of drama or some news on Big Boss or some news on Rakhi Sawant. Why would they want to watch my news, my reel, which is talking about that, these are the issues that the world is facing and climate
It's not sexy. It's not entertaining. It's not glamorous.
But it is something that needs to be done. And then it's up to us to figure out how to make it entertaining for them. so that they don't scroll. They're able to hook on for the first few seconds, and then they watch the entire thing. So that's the constant juggle.
Yeah, and that's what I think I've heard quite a bit in this space as well, that the bigger issues that we need to worry about as a country. There's hunger, there's malnutrition, there's poverty, there's all of these things. So why would we care about climate change in a country where there's much more pressing issues for us to solve? What's your take on that?
The climate issue is bigger than everything else because, as I said, it's an existential issue. Because it's a matter of everyone's survival. It's not a matter of this class or that class. The poor people won't be able to survive. It's even for the richer people, it'll be difficult to survive. Because if you look at what the reports are telling you, 15 years down the line, if we are hitting the 2-degree mark,
which we're set to.
I mean, you won't be effectively able to get out of the house for at least 5 hours during the day. At least in the southern part of the world, because it will be so hot because of heat waves. So what will you do then? Your economy will fall, your incomes will fall.
The supply chain as well. I mean, we depend on natural resources, and if they collapse, I don't know how businesses continue.
And someone needs to talk about it, because we are 10-15 years too late in this entire fight for climate change. I think this should have started way back in 2005, when Al Gore's first documentary came out.
Where did the eco-consciousness start within you? How did you become eco-conscious, and what was the trigger point or the turning point for you to decide?
I've always been like this. I remember this one time when I was in my 5th standard, I'd gone for a school trip to Manali at that time. And, the trekking instructor had asked everyone that, if a person is cutting a tree, who would like to go and stick to that tree? So I was one of the people who raised my hands. So it's not like I knew at that time that trees are important for us. It just came naturally to me.
Tree hugger. So
tree hugger, yeah. The Chipko Andolan. And over the years, I have generally been very conscious about, my surroundings, about how I deal with not only humans around me, but also, the other living things around me. So, everyone has a right to live on this planet, from the ant to the birds, to the animals, to us. Unfortunately, humans think we are on top of the food chain, but that's not, because it's a circle. But we think it's a pyramid and we are on top. But the thing with the pyramid is that if the things at the bottom even out, then we will also fall.
Exactly.
So even if you want it to be a pyramid, you need to ensure that, the pyramid stays constant.
And you knew that from a young age.
I didn't know that. It just happened to me. And in fact, the idea for making these videos, it happened over a period of time. It came to me while meditating. So it's not like...
what do you mean?
So I've been meditating for a few years now, and I always wanted to do something. Even before that, around in 2015, I was a little active on Facebook, when Facebook was the social media place to go. And I used to, post about local issues, local environmental issues, that, this tree is being cut and the government is doing this. I did that for a couple of months. And then later I realized that I need to do something about this. So I met a writer and I said that I want to write a book. And he said, don't write a book. No one reads these days. So you do something that you are comfortable with, that, if you want people to be more aware about this, do something that, you're able to reach more people.
Yeah.
And so then I was researching. I was trying to figure out what to do. And then one day I was meditating and suddenly it came to me, why don't you make content about this? So it's not like it occurred to me once. It fructified over a period of time.
It grew stronger. And then, because I was actually very inactive on social media, even though I'm an actor. Social media presence. Like
I had social media presence, but I was very inactive. I probably used to post once in a few months, and I used to stay away from Instagram and Facebook, because I was like, kya hai ye sab? And I don't want to waste time on this. I would rather spend time on something more effective and creative.
Interesting that you thought that way, because a lot of, I guess, the industry operates on Instagram.
It did.
On being
It does.
public.
And at that time, I hadn't really pivoted myself to be
Hmm.
able to like Instagram to such an extent that, that I could promote, be out there and talk about. I didn't want to talk about myself. I didn't want to talk about my life. That didn't gel with me. So I was like, okay, I need to be active on social media. So what do I talk about? I don't want to talk about myself. And this is the next best thing that I can talk about. So let's start talking about this. So initially
The
it
account
was,
started from scratch.
yeah.
That's it.
Like I
the
didn't
first
even know
video.
how to post a reel. I didn't even know what is trending, what is not trending.
How did you figure that out?
So I took someone's help also initially. There were a few people who used to help me with that, but of course I had to put in my own amount of time. And all the while when I was researching and reading for topics and shooting on the side. So now I would say I'm fairly a bit more aware about what's happening, what's not happening in the world of social media.
Right.
Suddenly, as when something is trending, I know that this topic is trending. Earlier, I would I don't know how to find out what is trending, what is not trending. So I used to ask people, do you know what topic is trending? Do you know what should I talk about?
And that's hard. To be honest, that's hard.
Yeah.
And I can, tell you that from my perspective as well, because just like you, I was an actor for 7-8 years. I was focusing on, building a startup. And I realized this after moving to India, that you need to talk about these issues. For there to be action, I think awareness precedes action. And there needs to be education. So I feel like I struggle with that definitely in terms of, what is trending, what is not trending, what is interesting to talk about. So how do you figure that out? How do you choose a topic before, you decide to do research on it or make a video about it?
So the first thing is, how important is it that I need to talk about this topic? If it's very important, then irrespective whether it's trending or not, I go and talk about it. Like right now, before we started this, I posted a video on what's happening on the weather situation in our hill stations. Kashmir and Shimla, they had a snowless winter. It just started snowing at the end of Jan. And it's important to talk about this. I'm not sure whether people will watch it or not watch it, but it's something that needs to be out there. The second thing is, how do I connect this with something that is trending? So, if it's a burning topic, when the first ever 2-degree breach was recorded, so I had to connect it with a trending topic. So I connected with Ori. Surprisingly, people started watching that.
Yeah. So you get pop culture into
pop culture. How
you're
do I
trying to
connect
refer
it
to pop culture memes.
And I wanted to talk about methane.
I saw that. You made it about animal.
Yeah, I connected with Bobby Deol because, Bobby Deol had a shorter screen time, but he had a big impact. So methane is something like that. It stays in the air for a shorter time, only 20 years, but it has a bigger impact than CO2.
Definitely.
So, you have to figure out how to make it interesting for the people. Sometimes I'm not able to do that because I'm short of time and things need to be out there, because that's how the world of social media works. You need to be quick. Consistent.
So you do, sometimes you see yourself sacrificing quality over
I'm
quantity?
Sure everyone does that. All content creators do that because, well, if you don't feed the beast, the beast won't promote you.
Okay.
The other thing is I talk about interesting things that are happening around the world in terms of technologies, innovation, that I feel people might find interesting. One more aspect is I talk about Indian startups that are doing interesting things in the field of sustainability. Okay. These are the kind of reels that generally tend to do well.
Yeah. So more local innovation, yeah. Indian-based startups. And innovation.
Okay. People generally, these are more shareable in nature, and people like to watch them also. So a lot of my reels I have received back on WhatsApp as WhatsApp forwards. These kind of reels.
Yeah, that's what the family, I think you tap into family audiences.
Family groups, yeah. Or some friend says, I got this on a family group. The other thing is sometimes I talk about general environmental issues. For example, one of my upcoming reels is on lantana camera, which is a weed, which is a growing weed all around India. It is decimating Indian ecosystem and forests. 40% of our tiger reserves are taken over by this weed. You might have seen all over India and you still don't know that it's a weed. Yeah. And it was introduced to India by the British. So I try to make it interesting. I try to throw in a bunch of topics, not only climate related videos, which is my primary
Niche.
aim
Yeah.
to talk about that, but you also don't want to be repetitive in nature.
Yeah. So how do you pick your niche? Because there's so many content creators out there, and that's what I feel like in the space of sustainability and environmental related content. It's almost the same thing over and over again. People telling you to go zero waste, or to reuse whatever scraps you have, or to carry a reusable bottle or a plastic, not use plastic straws and use bamboo straws. So I feel like there's this information coming at you that's been repeated so many times that it almost loses its meaning.
Yeah.
So how do you not recycle content?
You have to try and throw in something interesting now and then. You have to try and throw in a new kind of technology. You have to throw in something interesting that is happening around the world. You have to throw in, how people are embracing sustainability. So you have to be creative about it, because you cannot talk about the same thing again and again. So then that's where your research comes in. That's where you figure out what's trending, what's not trending. That's where you also try and understand how the platform works, what is working on the platform, what is not working, what is the platform promoting.
Which is
any social media platform is like a bad girlfriend or a boyfriend, because you never know how they're going to react.
So it's all experimentation.
It's all experiment. You learn on the go. Things that you expect to do well, they won't do well. Things that you don't expect, and you just upload and forget, suddenly they blow up the next day.
What was your first viral content?
It was a video on Jakarta, capital of Indonesia.
Yeah.
It's the fastest sinking city in the world, and it's happening because of subsidence.
Because of what, sorry?
Subsidence. Subsidence is when you pump out so much groundwater.
Okay.
So the ground automatically, because there is vacuum under the ground automatically starts to recede.
And they're pumping out water.
Groundwater for personal use, because they don't have fresh and any other resource of water. And at the same time, sea levels are rising. So on one side, your land is going low because you're pumping out too much water. And on the other side, the sea level is rising. So it's the fastest sinking city in the world.
I think Mumbai is also in the top 10 cities most vulnerable to climate change, if I'm not wrong.
Most of your coastal cities are. So
cities
Calcutta is, Mumbai is, Chennai is. Most of even New York is. In New York also, the weight of the skyscrapers is actually pushing the ground down. There's so many skyscrapers out there. It's literally pushing the ground down. And of course, subsidence is also there.
Yeah.
I didn't know about subsidence. Like, it's because, if you're in, let's say you're in inland area and you're pumping out water, how do you measure subsidence? Because you don't know the ground is going. It's only when you're next to like a ocean can you figure out that, compared to the ocean, the ground level is falling.
Level, yeah.
So that was the first reel.
That's the first time I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I've been in this space for 8 years, and I think I'm learning every single day.
I'm learning new things every day. So that was the first thing which went viral. And it was like this, I posted it and I forgot about it.
What do you think made it go viral? Because it's about Indonesia. It wasn't even Indian related content.
I still don't know.
What about... Okay.
The people who helped me at that time, they said that water was trending at that time for some reason, or Indonesia was trending, but I don't feel so.
Maybe the fact that it was new, because that was news to me. So something that we
there were
heard.
a few other reels before that also that were quite interesting, which I expected to do well. Like I talked about deep sea mining in one of my reels. I talked about eVTOLs, electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, which are basically battery operated helicopters, small battery, which we'll see a lot of in the Olympic Games now in Paris this year.
They're going to incorporate a lot of... Okay.
And I talked about deep sea mining, which is a very interesting topic. But bad girlfriend, bad boyfriend, you don't know how they're going to
didn't reciprocate what you put in.
So thankfully, after that, I started getting noticed. And after that, the biggest one was the one where I talked about Urvu Labs, where they're making water out of air, which is an Indian startup. And
how are they doing that?
40 million views.
40 million views on that particular video.
Yeah.
Wow.
40 million and still.
Did you expect that?
No.
If you had to sum up all your learnings with in 5 takeaways, maybe 5 key takeaways in terms of any learning from Instagram, from learning how to post a reel to your research, to storytelling, to the style that's changed, what would be the 5 key takeaways for a younger Aalekh?
Frankly, I've been so busy making videos, I haven't had the time to think about this because,
Yeah.
but I would definitely say that, try and figure out what's trending, try to latch on to that. Second, be more active on social media.
Okay.
Try and understand how the platform works, what the platform wants, how the platform wants you to behave, because that's very important. Knowledge of the platform you're on, be it YouTube or Instagram. And third is just be relaxed about it. Because in between, I realized I had become too stressed about making videos, and I was trying to cater to the audience rather than do what I wanted to do. And that was not working for me.
What was the difference?
Because then you're doing what the public wants. You're doing what they want. And then if that doesn't come naturally to you, it won't work well. If you're true to you, that's also, as an actor, that's also very important, because if you're true to the actor, if you're true to the character, it will come out eventually. If you really feel about what you're talking about.
What keeps you going?
I guess I am just in the flow now.
So it just comes naturally.
It just comes naturally.
But how do you get out of that period where you were overthinking, where you were, trying to maybe evaluate and tear apart things that, were working or weren't working? How did you get out of that period?
So frankly, I think I was addicted to social media. So much that, my eyes had started paining. I always used to be in front of the phone. And I just installed a minimalist app.
Okay.
There's an app called Minimalist.
Yeah. Is it like a timeout for...
No, it's not a timeout.
Okay.
It's just, so you know how we have these different screens and different logos of apps that we see? It generally makes your app one black screen,
Okay.
and gives the names of all these apps
Yeah.
in white font. So its research has proven that you tend to be less active on social media and on your phone when you use this app. And I've started using that, and it's working luckily.
It helps? So it's
Yeah,
reduced your social media time in that sense?
It's reduced my screen time to a certain extent. And now because you don't, right now on a normal phone, you associate your app with the logo.
Yeah.
So now when I have to think of the app, I have to literally think of the app's name. And sometimes I'm not able to remember it. Like, what is this editing app that I use? So it takes me like a few seconds, and it's those few seconds all you need to, get back into balance and realize, okay, this is why I'm going on this app. This is the work that I need to do, and I need to be out of it. Okay. It's a tool. You need to use it like a tool, and you need to.
So intentionality, like if you know you need it, and that's the reason you're trying to get onto that app, and that's helped you. Because it's usually like you see the Instagram logo, you see the Facebook logo, you see the LinkedIn logo, and it's all, you just hop from one logo to the other at times.
Instagram is still slightly draining because, I'll go on Instagram and I'll, for one particular purpose, and I'll get absorbed in it. Yeah. That happens with everyone.
Also, if it's your work, if you're a content creator and that's your work,
that's
you need
the catch
to engage.
22.
Like you said, to find out what's trending, you need to maybe consume what's trending.
So, you have to be aware enough that I'm getting absorbed in this, but not really get absorbed. So that's a thin line. Sometimes I'm able to, that's tough. But that comes with the job. And I have made my peace with that. Okay. It'll happen. I will probably figure out. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out a system, how to make the best use of that.
So those are, coming back to the 3 advice, it would be be more active on social media, be more consistent. And don't overthink.
Don't overthink.
Not any other key takeaways from the content creation?
Because I'm still the same person that I was when I started making. Okay. I still write in the same way. It's not like my language has changed. My scripts are the same. The way I research is the same. That can be improved. I'm making these videos, it's still the same. It's
your commitment to the cause.
My commitment to the cause. It's probably even more because of all the extra knowledge that I've gained over the months.
What's the most shocking fact you've uncovered in this process? Is there something that you didn't know? Of course, there are a lot of things. I think when you're making new videos, you may not have known about that particular issue before, but was there anything that didn't leave you, that kind of shook you or made you...
I knew about these things, but I didn't know the statistics. So, for example, I didn't know that the animal industry is responsible for the highest amount of deforestation around the world, indirectly. The shooting industry, let's say, all your filmmaking, all your web series, overall the world, causes more carbon emissions than your entire hospitality industry combined.
Really? It's production.
Production, yeah. According to one research, a couple of researchers, in fact. But because it's so fragmented, it's very difficult to do that. You see a hotel over there, you see a... It's easy to calculate because, it's
one building.
It's a static building. It has a certain number of people, certain number of rooms. It's easier to tell the people who are staying there that don't use extra water, don't use towels. But because the shooting industry is so fragmented, one time here, the other time there, one time in a sensitive, environmental zone where they can cause some
damage to the
ecosystem, which a lot of these movies have caused over the years.
So it's, how you talk about scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 as well. So I guess it's that, a lot of travel involved, set, I bet construction.
Are the sets sustainable? What kind of food are you serving? And even if you want to serve sustainable food and if you want to make a sustainable set because of the place you are in, it's difficult to source these things locally. How much, my God, Indian shoots use so much plastic. They've started using these small plastic bottles.
So small stuff like that as well.
Small things like that.
Small plastic stuff to bigger things like sets and wardrobes
your generators.
Yeah.
So that's how do you calculate all of this?
Have you seen any initiatives for sustainability in Bollywood in the movie production space?
So personally, I have not seen upfront. I did see a few posts by a few friends before lockdown, the first lockdown, where they were saying, okay, my set has started using steel bottles and we're not using plastic bottles anymore. But that has stopped over a period of time. After that, I know a few celebrities who are active, who talk about sustainability. I know that Alia Bhatt has started a production house that is doing something in this field. But
that's cool.
I know that one show recently was certified by the Green Seal, EMA Green Seal, which is a production...
Environmental Media
Association, which one Indian production was certified by that. But not a lot of noise, or at least I don't know of it.
How do we change that if you were to make production sustainable?
Awareness. Its awareness needs to seep in everywhere. I mean, I'm using the words of our PM because he said the right thing that, these kind of climatic issues, they need to be part of dinner table discussions. And until that happens, it will be very difficult to change things. First, you need to start making people aware. And, you need to start talking about these things with your friends, with your family, dinner tables, coffee shops, everywhere.
Those are the hardest places. Trust me. I feel like it's so easy to get a buy-in from an external audience, from external audiences than it is to get it at home and in your friend circle, because I think those are the hardest minds to change. I don't know why that is. Yeah. I don't know if your inner circle is more receptive to your content, or is it the external audience? But
they like my content, but I'm not sure if they live by the content.
It's the opposite of what people say, right? If you can't change things at home, why are you trying to change things outside? But I think these things just happen to be more... I mean, people just take it easily on the outside.
First, you have to change yourself.
Yeah.
And as I said, I realized that it's not important that the people nearest to you will listen to you. It's not important. It's you are different, they are different. So don't expect that, because that's just a lifelong fight.
Plus there's emotions involved.
There are emotions involved.
Because there's,
That's why you generally tend to listen to a third person. Even if your spouse has been giving you the same advice for a long time, you won't listen to that. But you go to a therapist or a counselor or a friend and they say you, and suddenly it comes to you like, okay,
why do we do that?
That's just I mean, that's why I'm making these videos, so that other spouses can listen to me.
Okay, so they're for other wives and not for...
Yeah, that's where content creation comes in handy. That's at least one good thing about content creation, because when you see your mom making the same recipe, you're like, no, this is fine. But when you see a content creator making the same recipe in a more flashy
visually
appealing, you're like, okay, I need to try this.
And your mom would just be like seething behind, I've been doing this for years.
Or if you send the same reel to her, that why don't you try making this?
That's the end of it. Yeah. No, I fully agree with that. But just coming back to key takeaways in terms of production houses, right? If awareness was there, what concrete steps could the industry actually take in terms of reducing their carbon footprint of filmmaking or shooting day to day, for example, because you've been a part of that industry and you've.
So I think it'll have to be divided amongst the different departments that there are. So there'll be costume department, definitely.
Okay.
There'll be the set department, definitely.
So costumes would be more.
Costumes need to be more sustainable in the way that they are sourced.
Yeah. Reused as well, I guess.
Yeah. So I think then each department will need a different consultant to be able to help them to be more innovative.
Right. So costume.
Yeah, costume is there. Sets are there. Then your whole actual travel cost of it. How do you travel sustainably? Which is very difficult to do, because if you have to travel to, let's say, another city, it's not like you're not going to take a train now, because the entire crew is going to take a flight. And that's where you cannot do much about that. But that's where technology comes in. That's where, you hope that technology catches up on the side, and then you start using aviation companies. They start using SAF, which is sustainable aviation fuel, which is basically cooking oil.
Yeah. Do you think that'll happen? Do you think there'll be an uptake of that in India?
Jet and Indigo, was it Jet? Indigo and Vistara did start a few flights. Internationally, they have started a few flights, full flights, like only on SAF.
SAF, yeah.
It'll take a while, but yeah, I hope it comes in time. Everything will come, but everything will be there.
Yeah.
It's not like technology is not catching up. Technology is catching up, but
it also has to catch up with demand, I guess. I mean,
and it's also a matter of. So it's a trifecta. This is what I realized in the past few months, and so it's public policy, it's policy, it's public awareness, and it's technology.
What comes before the other?
So it's all a triangle. It
all has to come at the same time. It has
to come together at the same time. So let's say the plastic ban, which happened in Maharashtra a few years ago. So there was policy level initiative. There was a little public demand also from it, but there was no technology to replace it.
No alternative.
No alternative to, because if I went to a vegetable vendor and I told him, why are you still using plastic? He's like, और क्या option है? कि paper के bags तो महंगे आएंगे.
So it's also the affordability that I guess comes into that, along with technology, because even if tech exists and people can't
but at
buy
that time there's
scale.
No tech. So there is no tech to replace plastic as of now, which people, and there was also not a lot of awareness, and he was like, people also still ask for plastic bags. So, the technology and public awareness were not as strong. So policy level initiative was there. Now, this is exactly what is playing out in France right now. So you have all these farmer protests that are happening. That is, public opinion is not going with public policy, because policy level initiative is there where they are cutting back on the diesel subsidies. People who have been farming for a long time, they don't want to shift to new technology. So there is the public opinion is not merging with these two. So, that's why there is a pushback happening. And then recently I was also reading that Europe might be rolling back on some of the policies, environmental policies that they have taken out in the past couple of years. So even though technology and policy is working, public opinion is not.
But some people believe that if regulation comes, people will change. That's what the common belief is, that we need regulations, and the tighter the regulations are, businesses will have to shift, people will have to shift. But I guess
it doesn't happen all the time. Well, in India also it happened with the farmer protests.
Yeah.
So if people push back, then the government has no other option but to listen to them, because democratic society, that's how things work. That's what democracy is ideally. And that's why, when you talk about countries like China, where, it's all under a whip, things tend to move faster. So, if they take a decision that we want to make sure that this is happening, we want to have a huge mass plantation drive around the Gobi Desert, then they will do that because, they want to do that.
But that's not sustainable as a system in the long run.
Or if they decide to, like, China is now getting famous for all the sponge cities that it's creating.
What do you mean?
Have you heard of sponge cities?
No.
So sponge cities is a new concept where they are creating a lot of wetlands and marshes within the city, so that in the future or even now, when excess rains, they get absorbed by these this soil which is spongy in nature. So that's why it's called a sponge city. In India also, they are trying to make Chennai a sponge city.
So the soil structure is different.
So basically trying to create wetlands and marshes within this city and trying to create an ecosystem where excess water is absorbed by the land rather than being water being flooded away into the sea.
I love that.
Yeah. So China is doing that at a very rapid scale, where it has created a lot of sponge cities.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you should look at these videos.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I love that I'm learning. That's going to be my research.
And it's a good thing because it's also a good ecosystem. It's attracting more biodiversity. It's attracting wildlife. I did a video on this also, in fact. And I think so in India, they're trying with Chennai in one more city.
So it's happening here as well. It's happening in our country.
In India, a lot of things are happening at a policy level. At least it's not like India is behind in these aspects. India it's trying to do something in all these areas. But of course, India has its own issues to deal with.
Yeah. Largest population as well. I think it's just harder to...
Population is there. It's, of course, now we haven't hit the peak yet. Yeah. We'll hit the peak somewhere around 2060. And that's where the decline will start. But population might not be a bad thing. I also always used to think that, population, there are too many people. There are too many people. I agree with the fact. Back when I was younger and when we used to travel to hill stations to now, when you travel to hill stations, there's not even an empty space. Yeah. It's packed.
Yeah.
I mean, the most quiet place will be your bedroom, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I prefer not to go out, because it's just so loud and there are so many people everywhere. But the thing about population is when it starts slowing down, it slows down at a dramatic scale. And that's what is happening with China right now. And that's why their economy is flattening and workforce is decreasing.
The aging population.
Yeah, the aging population. So it's about how you utilize this population and how educated the population is.
I've changed my mind about that too. I think it's overconsumption and not overpopulation. I think it's just like a few of us using resources and blowing up our own personal carbon budgets. Yeah. So it's not really that, the world doesn't have enough for everyone. It doesn't, they say the world has enough for everyone's need and not enough for everyone's greed. And I think that's what it is, that if we learn to live sustainably, there is enough to go around for everyone. Yeah. Because coming back to animal agriculture, as you said, a lot of the food that we grow, especially soy, is grown to feed the animals, not really the humans, right? And that's just bizarre.
Yeah.
That there is, we talk about malnutrition, we talk about hunger, and yet we're feeding 80 billion land animals a year to feed 8 billion people. How is that? How's that sustainable? And I think you spoke about the statistics in one of your videos as well.
I don't remember the statistics, but yeah. So basically the amount of meat that we get out of, let's say, one animal, let's say one cow, you have to feed more calories to be able to get a certain amount of calories. So that's unsustainable in nature. I mean, that would have been sustainable if there were 2 billion people on Earth. But right now we are reaching 8 billion. So that's, how do you manage that?
How do you sustain that?
And exactly. That's where, again, technology. So that's where lab meat or plant-based meat.
Have you tried lab-grown meat?
Lab, unfortunately not, because it's not available anywhere in India.
I think there's one company working on cultivated meat, if I'm not wrong.
Then I can try that. I'll figure out. I did try plant-based meat. Tried it a couple of times.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's nice, tasty.
Yeah, you don't mind it. You don't mind the.
It's not like it's slightly expensive, but it's fine. It'll eventually come down.
Right.
I think I tried Beyond Meat.
Yeah.
And I did try something else also in India, but I forgot what it was called because it was being offered to me as a sample. But I'm open to these ideas because we need technology. We need to change our way of living, the way we consume, the way we eat, and
plant-based diet is, I think, one of the most effective ways that an individual can reduce their own environmental impact, for that matter. But
it can. I was a non-vegetarian earlier until 2017, and I didn't shift to being a vegetarian because of the environment, but because I started meditating, and I obviously they say, when you're doing a spiritual practice, you need to turn vegetarian.
Why is that?
Because you're just a lot calmer, and you realize that there are these subtle energies. You're dealing with very subtle energies when you are in deep states of meditation, and you notice the difference when you're on non-vegetarian food and when you're on vegetarian food.
What does that do to your emotional state in terms of eating non-vegetarian food when you're not meditating? And
so now I don't know, of course, because it's been a while, but I did realize initially when I had stopped that meditation is generally a lot deeper. You experience deeper states in meditation when you're on vegetarian food. It's especially, I remember this one time when I had, in my initial years of meditation, I had eaten red meat. And the next day, I was just like, what's wrong with my mind? What's wrong with me? What's happening to my mind? I just couldn't.
You felt that discomfort?
I felt that
almost.
Discomfort in my mind, body. I don't know how to describe it, but it was a weird feeling.
Does it have anything to do with like the suffering of the animal that you're consuming, knowing that I'm just trying to make sense of.
So energy wise, I don't know how it works. There are a lot of people more educated and who have more wisdom than me, than who can talk about this. But just from the point of view of health, the fact that it takes our digestive tract is so long that our body uses so much energy just to break down meat. And, I guess that kind of energy is available to you when you're meditating, when you're on a vegetarian food, and when you're on non-vegetarian diet. Your body is using that excess energy. So you feel that difference. It's a very subtle thing. And people say, what bullshit is this? How can that be? But
what's the connection?
But you cannot explain these experiences. You cannot talk about these experiences because it only comes to you, it only happens to you when you're in that state, when you're meditating. Or let's say if another person who's also a meditator, if I talk to them, they will be able to relate to me.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know the spiritual connection.
No, there is definitely a spiritual connection to it. For me, of course, there was a spiritual connection. And that's why as far as I've read, overall in India, I mean, primarily we were vegetarian because all of us took to spirituality and religion very strongly. And because the spiritual teaching was always very strong, it sort of merged with religion, and that's why people still adhere to that. But I remember having an interaction with an Ayurvedic doctor once, and he told me in certain areas of Ayurvedic scriptures, they do recommend red meat for certain ailments also.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
He told me, I have not read about it. And I've also heard someone else talk about that, there are certain scriptures which do talk about certain other kind of meats. But depending on the kind of profession you're in, that's what I'm assuming. So let's say if you're a fighter, in the olden times, so probably it was prescribing a certain kind of diet to a fighter. So let's say if you're a warrior, you need to eat this. You need to eat meat to be probably able to have more energy or something like that. I'm assuming. But if you're on the spiritual path, if you're a Brahman or if you're a this, you need to be able to stick to a vegetarian diet. And probably that's what stuck upon. And that's what people started listening to over the years. So it was not like it's a total non-vegetarian was a total no-no in our Indian culture. That's what I have understood from all the interactions that I have had. And definitely people used to eat non-veg earlier too. But of course it was all sustainable. It was not the way we are consuming it now.
Not the scale.
Not at the scale that we are doing
the industrialization of it as well.
So there are three aspects to it. There is the health aspect, that of course non-vegetarian, we as humans are not born to eat non-vegetarian food. There are certain theories that say that. The second aspect is the morality aspect, that why do you want to kill another animal? And the third aspect is the sustainability aspect, that it's not sustainable.
Exactly.
So whichever way you want to look at it, it's you can you can relate to
Because
all
even our
three.
dental structure, I think we're not
not.
meant to bite into.
We are not meant to, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just
Canines
I
have
think,
receded over the years.
exactly. Back then it was a matter of survival, but right now we have a choice. There's everything
it's
that's
a choice.
available
It
to us. So I think just choosing better. What's the non-negotiable? Like, what's the one thing you feel most strongly about?
In the house?
Yeah, in the house and in the space both.
You mean as a content creator, what I feel most strongly about?
As a value, if you have to stand really strongly for something at home, what would that be?
One thing is that I am very conscious about the air, the quality of air. Because from the past 2 years that I've noticed, Bombay air has gone really down south. It's not as what it used to be. So I'm very
detrimental to your health to be breathing this air. Yeah.
So that is one thing I ensure, that we have clean air around the house. Minimum plastic. Some kind of plastic you cannot control, which is coming from the outside. If somebody else is sending something to you as a gift, and if it comes wrapped in a plastic, you can't do anything about it. There are certain things which are in our control. I try and control those. Pick my battles. Energy, of course. How much energy you're using. Try and be sustainable about it. Don't overuse. Don't use more than you need. Try and use technology to your benefit. New technology when that comes.
To make your systems more efficient, I guess.
Try and adapt to new. Be the first adapter, as they call. Someone will have to do it. So why don't you go ahead and try and do it? Promote sustainable products. So, for example, this one. It's these are made out of packet of chips.
Really? I love that. I just see 2 chip packets on them. I can visualize that.
Yeah. So I guess now I do get a lot of these kind of products because startups send me these products where they're making these innovative things and which are sustainable in nature. But this is quite a unique product because packet of chips are called MLP, which is multi-layered packaging. And I just shot a video on this. So it'll be out by the time this podcast comes out. And it's like people who recycle don't touch these packets with a 10-foot pole because it's very difficult to recycle it. Because it's different layers.
Layer by layer.
Because it's different layers just attached together. And it's very difficult to take it out. But there's this one guy in Pune, Anish, who has figured out how to do it, and
he's turned them into that.
I
love technology like this. I think that's where innovation comes.
And this is not the only thing that he can make. This is just one of the things. It's more about the raw material, so he can make many more lifestyle and industrial products with the raw material. But he used this because this was a more, from a brand point of view, this was more attractive. That sunglasses from packets of chips.
Love that. Future so bright, you got to cover them, your eyes.
Yeah. So I try and use more products like these. I'm not wearing those shoes today, but there are these shoes which I have, which are made out of plastic bottles, theli.
I saw that. I think you did that as well.
Theli, yeah.
So plastic bottles and plastic bags.
Plastic bags and plastic bottles. So they recycle those. Then there are a few other things. Just yesterday, someone sent me, when you buy fruits, these days you get that small foam-like net layer.
Yeah, that they wrap the apples
the apple and the pomegranate and
all
oranges.
I see them in
That's basically plastic.
Thermocol looking.
It's plastic. Yeah. Thermocol is plastic.
Yeah.
So now she has found an alternative to that where she has replaced it with recycled netting of wool. So it's basically wool which is thrown away, which is a byproduct of a certain industrial process. They collect it and then they make these nets and they repurpose that into packaging, net packaging for fruits.
That's super cool. It really bothers me as well because when you go to a lot of these supermarkets, you know how fruits, they come with a wrapper. Essentially, it's the original skin of the fruit. And then you see that being cut and that being, there's layers of plastic on it. And then they cut the fruit and they give it to you in a grocery store. I'm like, no, the pineapple or the watermelon, it already had a cover. It was literally the cover of it. The fruit comes in biodegradable packaging. You should should just be kept the way it is. You don't need extra packaging on top of it. So
this is all just branding. This is just a way of selling things to people, that you try and make it more appealing by just adding one more layer of something that is shiny, something that is
convenient. Like you peel the orange and there's like those 5 like segments of those oranges in a plastic container wrapped with plastic on it.
Oh yeah, that is when you stay at hotels.
You could have just had the orange in the orange
or not
peel.
even the plastic sheet. Sometimes it comes in an aluminium foil.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, I don't get it.
How much will you tell people? And other way, if you start talking about these things, you're just shouting at people all the time. So sometimes you have to, as you said, pick your battles.
Exactly. And I think that's, you have to do that in the long run, honestly, because there's so many issues to care about and there's so many, different things happening at the same time. That's the only way I think we stay sane in the process. So has there ever been anything that's like disheartened you? Has there ever been anything that's, I think we touched upon the shocking bit, but has there anything that's made you angry beyond measure? Where you almost must have lost hope saying, I don't know what we can do about it and I don't know what we're doing about it, but maybe this is too big for me.
So I'm beyond that point, because when I started making content, I realized that I will eventually have to face a lot of these points where I will come across certain pieces of information which might be difficult to digest, or where I might want to be like an ostrich. But I made a conscious decision that I'll won't be emotionally affected by it. I will do my best of trying to ingest it and trying to put it out in a way that that's easy for the people to digest. So I will do my bit, because if I've decided to do this, then let's be honest to it. Because if I'm emotionally affected, I can be emotional on screen, but I personally can't be emotionally affected by it, because then it'll be very difficult for me. It is bad. There are bad things happening around the world. We are in a difficult situation right now. But my job is to read about it, is to make it concise and interesting so that people are more aware about it. And I need to be true to that. So, of course, there are times when I don't want to read a particular piece of information, because I know, again, it's the same thing. Where are we heading? But it's my job right now. It's literally what I've decided to do. It's not like somebody's paying me, but it's still my job. I've decided to do it, and so that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah. How do you detach though? How do you find that disconnection with whatever you're reading? How do you build that over time? I think it's almost being desensitized to the information that you're consuming, because you're consuming so much of that, and there's a lot of negativity, there's a lot of pessimism, there's a lot of doom and gloom as well, right? In this movement especially. So how do you stay hopeful? How do you disconnect from that at the end of the day?
So there's this meditation technique where, when people meditate, they are with their breath all the time. They watch their breath. So especially when I'm interacting with news like this or watching documentaries, I try and stay with my breath and try and stay balanced, so that, I can distill the right amount of information and not be affected by it at the same time. However, I still don't watch a lot of long format documentaries on environmental issues, because then they tend to get very heavy.
Okay.
Yeah, they tend to. Went for a recent film festival, Environment Film Festival. You might have heard of it.
Happened last year? Yeah.
Happened this year, a couple of months ago.
Okay.
It's been happening for a few years now.
Yeah.
And
Elephant Whisperers, I think, was shown at that.
Elephant Whisperers was shown at that, and a lot of other international films were shown. So there, it was difficult for me, but I somehow managed through like 3 back-to-back documentaries on environmental issues. And after that, I realized, okay, I can handle this.
I have to switch off. Like, I've been vegan for 8 years, and a lot of vegan documentaries, at some point I'm like, no, I know enough about this. I know I'm always going to be vegan. But when, you see the suffering, you see what goes on behind closed doors, I don't think I can
so I don't watch
subject
vegan.
myself
I
to
don't
that.
watch those. I haven't seen Seaspiracy.
Seaspiracy, yeah. There's a new one coming, Cryspiracy. Cryspiracy as well. So I think they're going to go into religion and spirituality.
That I don't mind watching.
Quite a bit. It's going to be very interesting.
That was, I haven't seen Seaspiracy yet, because I know it'll be difficult to. Yeah. But, and also because I'm interacting with content all the time, this kind of content. So I need to be balanced about it.
What gives you hope?
So it's not like there is only bad happening. So I try and read the good news also, and that is what probably gives me hope.
Solutions like that.
Solutions like this.
People working towards it.
That's why I generally read a lot about technology, because technology is where I see a glimmer of hope.
Hmm.
Because the new technological solutions is what will eventually, help us go beyond all of this.
I also think community, and I saw that at COP. I was at COP 28, and I feel like as much as we talk about technology, at the end of the day, I think the environment, we somehow think of it as something that's separate from us, but it's about people, right? It's about communities at the foreground, people and animals that get affected, right? We're talking about like lives here. And just, seeing that community uprise, knowing we have the solutions, like all these grassroots communities, indigenous knowledge, like you said, ancient cultures, they've always had the solution and they know how to protect the land. So when you make it about people, and when all of us come together as activists, as community, as, change makers, entrepreneurs, that, I think that to me is the most hopeful, powerful thing, right? Because there are grassroots level solutions as well. And I think they just need to be maybe that balance again with technology and our existing old knowledge coming together. I think that's where, at least that's what gives me hope.
That's something that I haven't really thought about a lot. I have been reading about it a lot recently. Even a few content creators have been talking about, especially after COP. This has been in the news. It is interesting, and I would like to, read about it more.
Yeah, because technology is definitely one aspect, and I don't think I'll ever deny that we need it, and it's doing a lot of good. But at the same time, it's also about the people who are at the forefront of it and, who are affected by it. So I think maybe just leveraging community, leveraging, that knowledge.
There's this other content creator called Aditi Mayer.
Yeah,
I saw her talk about this.
I love her content. So she does come from a colonialism point of view.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot of, I didn't know this, but one of my friends told me that India started consuming dairy after colonialism. Like the uptake in, meat and dairy just increased after that. So there's a lot of, maybe decolonizing our minds as well that needs to happen. And those are, I think, collective level problems and societal level issues that we also need to deal with. So just going back to maybe our ancient knowledge and our own roots and re-embracing that again, reclaiming that almost. Because sustainability is not, this big foreign word. It's
but we have been living through that all these years.
Yeah. So I think just a misconception as well, maybe that fading away. That's when it becomes mainstream. Do you ever, get any sort of hate comments? Do you ever, get these like trolls? Do you get any sort of... Because you're not preachy again, like I said, your content is just facts.
That's the first thing you learn as a content creator or as a performance artist also. I realized that as a performance artist, as an actor, that is what I learned as an actor. The day you decide to put yourself out there as a dancer, as an actor, as a content creator, you are opening yourself to people's judgment. And you have to be comfortable with that, because if you let that affect you, it's going to be very difficult for you. Life is going to be very difficult for you. So you have to again take it, be very balanced about the kind of feedback you're getting. You take the good things and you ignore the bad things.
So you cut through the noise, basically.
You cut through the noise. And all content creators, at least who have been making content for a while, they have all learned to deal with it.
I know they have a thick skin, but I think at some point it does seep in. No? Because you learn to stay on top.
Instagram or YouTube won't let it seep into you, because if you let it seep into you, won't be able to make your next video. So you have to be on the ball to be ready with your next video. If you just keep on letting the comments trouble you, then you won't be able to make content. There was this one reel where I was talking about the impact of sugarcane farming in India. How it's decimating the land, the groundwater levels in India. And sugarcane is, because a lot of politicians, they own these sugarcane mills. They are purposely pumping out sugarcane and sugar, and the kind of pollution it causes. Sugarcane farming and processing causes a lot of pollution in the nearby areas also. So a lot of people were triggered by that, especially farmers from the rural areas, because they are sugarcane farmers, and they were like, this is our mainstay. How can you talk about this and this and that? but it was important to talk about it. So, and I was surprised to see that because, but then I realized, well, if you are targeting a particular person's economic activity, it is true that they will also revert back.
I get that, but that's the same. Just coming back to animal agriculture again, when you talk about the shift, you are kind of talking about everyone who's dependent on the dairy industry, everyone who's dependent on the leather industry, everyone who's dependent on the meat industry. There needs to be a transition, but for how long are we going to keep defending economic growth over what is right? For how long? Right? There needs to be that transition, and that's why maybe like green growth comes in, or people talk about just transition. That you don't leave anyone behind. They, need to be upskilled. They probably need to be, shifted to a different sort of job. But you don't disregard them. You don't disregard what they do. It's just maybe you consider the environmental impact of it and the economic impact of it, and make sure that there is a transition. But I don't think we can keep defending loss of livelihood and continue polluting, continue harming, continue pumping these emissions into the atmosphere. Up to, after some point, I think there needs to be a different conversation that needs to be had. So I'm glad you spoke about something like that, which is touchy, because again, we're talking about farmers and we're talking about...
It was very touchy for people. I was surprised. Then after that, there was this video where I was talking about paper cups. That, paper cups are actually not paper cups, they're plastic
You peeled
cups.
out and you revealed the plastic bit,
And of course, then there are microplastics, and then it's a lie. So paper cup is it's actually a lie. It's not a paper cup. And so certain paper cup manufacturers were quite angry that this is a lie, this is biodegradable plastic, and
what is that?
and how can you talk about this? So obviously there are certain segments who will always be triggered by what you are talking about. But if it needs to be said, it needs to be said.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, someone needs to be the first one, and
someone needs to be the first one.
Yeah, that's when the movement gains traction.
Yeah.
I want to do a segment with you. You know how you compress everything that you learn into a bite-sized 1-minute video. If I were to talk about certain issues, and if you could sum them up for me as quickly as you can, let's try that out.
Okay, that's right.
Air quality index.
Air quality index, not much but that people can do. It's mostly government's job. Governments need to take strong policy level initiatives to do something about it. And that has been proven in China. Individually, I mean, how much will you carpool? How much will you use the cycle? This and that. Yes, individual efforts will have a little dent, but it's also about how government is tackling the situation. Because it's too big for one individual to do something.
What do they need to do?
They need to, certain policy level initiatives, they need to increase afforestation within, they need to have urban forests within the city. They need to give more subsidies to, stronger subsidies and local level subsidies to battery operated cars. They need timely, so for example, they cannot have a lot of construction going on at the same point of time. They need to plan their construction activities, which are happening.
Yeah. Because we don't see the connection between that as well.
We don't see the connection between that and this, but there is. There needs to be a lot of planning that goes in before you go in any sort of major construction activity. There need to be, if needed, there need to be bigger air purifiers like Delhi and China have done that, attached in the city. But most important of them all, you need more urban forests, which is like Miyawaki forests. You know about that?
No.
So Miyawaki forest is a technique where you can grow a forest 10 times faster than a conventional forest. And it absorbs 30 to 40% more carbon than a normal forest.
What's different about that?
So it was developed by this Japanese scientist called Akira Miyawaki.
Okay.
It's a certain technique where you grow certain local species in a particular way next to each other in a close proximity, and you increase competition between them. Unlike a natural forest, so this is a lot more denser and thicker.
So it's literally survival of the fittest in that way?
It's not like that, but there are certain other techniques also involved in the way you prepare the ground, in the way you water the plants, in the kind of food you give them. You mean the nutrients you give them.
So less resources and better yield in that
Less
sense.
resources, less time, better yield, better, faster growth, more biodiversity. There are plans. So the biggest urban forest is in Bhuj, Smriti One Earthquake Memorial Museum. They have 3 lakh trees over there, and within 2 years, they've almost had a major forest.
They've used this technique too.
They've used it. In India, they're using this technique, but I don't know how fast they are about it, how strong they are about it. Because in Bombay, they have allocated certain plots of land. So you can have a Miyawaki technique in this much plot of land. The idea is to be if you don't have a lot of space, you can even grow it in a parking lot. So in the West, in the Europe, they are using this a lot. And a lot of Indian consultants are helping them do this.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely exciting. But what do you think of the Mahalakshmi racecourse in the same light?
So Mahalakshmi racecourse,
Open
definitely,
space.
if they have come out with a plan to make it into a Central Park or a Hyde Park kind of thing, that is the best thing they
park.
can. No, not a theme park.
Not
So
a
they
theme park
came
anymore.
back again and said it's not a theme park, because when they said theme park, I was actually going to make a video on it. That we don't need we don't need jokers. We have enough jokers already.
Yeah.
We need more trees. And just the next day, then they came back with a clarification that half of it, we are making it into a Hyde Park or a Central Park kind of park. That's the plan.
Okay.
So that is the best thing that they can do with it. And I have a feeling that they will use the Miyawaki technique to go about doing it. I don't know what the plan is with the other half. Ideally, I would want the entire thing to be turned into a park, but half is also not that bad.
We get what we can from it.
And frankly, the racecourse was just a waste of space. It was, I've been there. The grass also needs water. So you're wasting water for nothing because you're cutting the grass eventually. So there was no carbon absorption happening over there.
Not in the manicured lawn, of
Not
course.
in the
I
manicured
think
lawn, of course.
Depends whether it's just wild and...
Yeah. So you want a racecourse, you build it outside the city in the outskirts. But central Bombay needs more
needs
trees.
a lung, right? The
needs its
Amazon,
lungs.
like the Amazon rainforest, lungs of the earth.
So it's a welcome move, I think,
Okay.
if that is a plan.
Okay. Deep sea mining.
Deep sea mining is something that is very important, and no one is talking about it because we don't see it.
Tell me about it.
Because we see, we see animals being killed. So it's visually, it's very striking. But deep sea mining is something which has started recently, is where at the bottom of the sea, there's this area called the Clarion Clipper Zone, which is in the Pacific Ocean next to the US, where at a depth of 4 to 6 kilometers, there are these polymetallic nodules, which look like potatoes. Polymetallic nodules,
okay,
which actually look like potatoes. There are these stones which have formed over millions and millions of years. So let's say a shark tooth, it fell. This is one of the theories. And there are certain minerals from the sea which have collected around it over a period of time.
So it's a natural process.
It's a natural process. It's a kind of a fossil. So at 6 to 4 kilometers depth, there are a lot of these polymetallic nodules, which is basically a kind of fossil, which has formed over millions of years. Looks like a potato. Small potatoes.
Same size?
Sorry?
Same size.
Almost all the same size. Spread over acres of seabed. And this is flat seabed that we are talking about. And this is deep, rich ecosystem. And they are full of minerals like lithium, cobalt, which is the third mineral used for all these batteries. Basically, they are mineral rich and resource rich. And now they are taking it out of the deep ocean, literally by sending a big vacuum down at the ocean bed. This vacuum is sucking out these polymetallic nodules and pushing it back into the sea. They are taking it out, and then they are breaking these polymetallic nodules, and then they are extracting these minerals out of these this raw material and using it to make batteries for cars and phones. But in that entire process, they are disturbing the entire ecosystem, which has been there for millions of years. Because once you trouble the ecosystem, it's not like land. So let's say there's a lot of sand which is disturbed.
Yeah.
So that sand, it won't settle down for at least a few million years.
For a few million years?
Yeah, because that's not how things work in deep sea. So it's not like on land you throw something and it comes back. It's not like dust which will settle down after a while. So this is clean sea which we are talking about. This is transparent blue sea which we are talking about. And you're making it cloudy. You are destroying the organisms which are staying there. And there are many such deep sea creatures which we don't even know about. So we have explored only 1% of the ocean surface, and we have explored more of Mars than we have explored the bottom of the ocean. So there are so many creatures which we don't even know about. So there is a possibility that you are killing off so many creatures which we haven't yet explored. And even though there is an international seabed authority which is taking care of all these issues, for some reason they have given the go-ahead to one Canadian company to go ahead and do this.
So they're allowed to excavate, they're allowed to drill. It's almost drilling, I imagine, or is it just
not
excavating?
Drilling, it's sucking out. But in a way, it's as bad as drilling.
Wow. And we're using these, like we're just using these fossils for batteries and phones and other electronic items.
Yeah. So when you see land-based mines, you can see the kind of destruction they are causing to the ecosystems. But deep below the sea, there is no one, it's not visible. So, who's responsible for that? How do you know what's happening deep below the sea?
What do we do about this? Because obviously the demand for technology and all these products, it is going to increase. And I guess the excavation of these materials, that's also going to increase. And that's I think the backlash that we get from talking about EVs or electric cars as well, that it does use these minerals which are precious, that require a lot of mining.
So it's a double-edged sword that you need these batteries. But at the same time, you don't have any other option right now, or at least any other option that is not out there, which is not yet out in the open. We've always heard about water-powered cars. People call them, that they are conspiracy theories, but who knows? Because
didn't they exist back in the day?
They did, and I made a video on it also because it's all supposed to be conspiracy theory that and then there are certain agencies that came and shut down the entire thing, and this happened and that happened. But as of now, this is the only technology we have. In terms of powering our homes, of course, we have nuclear energy, which is the cleanest. But for our batteries and cars, we do need these minerals also. That is also the truth. So how do you balance this?
What about the recyclability of these materials that we already have extracted?
So you figure out ways to recycle them. You figure out ways to ensure a longer life. And there are these companies which are working on recycling them also. And there are so many of these minerals that are already out there in landfills.
Yeah.
There are so many of these things spread out in our
the
landfills.
Yeah.
We just need to be able to smart enough. We need to figure out a way that we can extract it out of the landfill.
The separation, I think that's a whole separate process. Like people talk about it, that sometimes it's just cheaper to throw it away than to recycle it and separate.
There are certain companies in the West that I've read about recently that are working on effective recycling, or figuring out how to recycle. Let's say, there's a little bit of gold in all our phones. Take out all the gold and take out different metals from phones and different electronic items, and then combine it all and then reuse it. So that needs to be more effective. Rather than take out more resources, we need to get smarter at trying to recycle stuff, because it'll always be easier to take out more resources because that is a natural thing to do.
Yeah.
But ideally, the sustainable thing to do is figure out how to reuse this and reuse this again and again and again.
Definitely. Circular economies. I think just moving more towards circular economies as well. I read this the other day where it said the weight of everything we've created has surpassed the weight of all living things. So if you think of like all the living beings around, the weight of everything that we've created is like much, much bigger than all the species and all the living things combined.
Definitely.
So they've definitely like outweighed us, at least in that capacity, all the inanimate objects. So I think there's a lot around for us to excavate that from as well.
Yeah.
Soil health, topsoil.
Topsoil, There is a brilliant person who's doing a lot of work on this. Safe Soil is a campaign by Sadhguru. I mean, that's where I learned about it. It's essentially that the topsoil is being destroyed by all the pesticides, by all the fertilizers that we are pumping into the ground. And again, it comes back to organic farming. It comes back to making sure that we don't overuse our pesticides and fertilizers. That is the only thing. It's more about education. Technology also plays a very important role here, because there are certain there is a certain startup that uses AI to figure out how much pesticide and fertilizer to use and at what time. So the farmer was saying, effectively I've reduced my fertilizer and pesticide use to 60%, because I just use it at the right time. And I don't
not a calculated guess. It's proper information.
It's a calculated
data.
guess. It's not andhadhun that I'm just throwing it like this. So yeah, even if you're not doing organic farming, just try and do smart farming, where you're using the right amount of resources at the right time.
Yeah. Any advice to individuals on a personal level as to what they can do to be more sustainable, to be more climate conscious, and not stuff that we've heard over time, but things that are much more effective?
So I won't give you a personal advice as to don't do this, do that. I will just tell you to start reading more and become more aware. Because when you start doing that, the natural things will come to you. For all you know, you might start eating organic food. Or if that doesn't come to you naturally, you might start wearing organic clothes. So I don't know what kind of a person you are, because everyone's different. But if you just start being more aware, if you start reading more, if you start talking about this more, if you become a little more aware about climatic and environmental issues, it'll slowly seep into you, and you will start from the way where you're supposed to start. You might become a vegetarian. You might not do any of the other things, but you might become a vegetarian. You might not become a vegetarian. You might just stop using plastic.
Yeah.
Or you might start carpooling. But you will start somewhere. That's the more important part.
Yeah. Because it has to be personal. I think it's like a diet, right? It depends on how your body, the way you work, the resources, background, whatever's available to you, and how it affects you as well. I think the easiest way for someone to change is knowing that this is relatable to me and this is going to matter to me in the long run, and that's why I need to make the switch. So I think that connection to the problem also becomes really, really important. What about content creators? Any advice to content creators that are making content on the environment, on climate, on sustainability, how to keep it relevant, how to make it shareable, or how to not be preachy on the platform as well?
So one thing is for sure, that there is going to be a lot of news about climate and environmental issues. So it's not like you'll be short of content. It's just how you present that content. So just try and be creative about what you're putting out there. Don't let your personal emotions get mixed in when you're making the content, and be true to what you're making.
What do you aim to achieve out of the platform that you have? Because I know you didn't start off with the same vision. You probably didn't expect to be where you are today. But where do you want to take it going forward?
I just want to make good content that educates people and puts the right things out there. I haven't really made a long-term plan as of yet.
What does impact mean to you from that platform? What would you consider as impactful from the work that you do and from the videos that you create?
So if I talk about something that is really important, like a certain climatic issue, and if that reel does well, then I feel that has created some impact. For me, measuring impact solely in the kind of work I'm doing, I guess that would be impactful. It's not about me doing something personally or going and talking about in public. It's about if that one thing that I made and that I feel is important, and if that is doing well and that is being shared widely and people are appreciating it and people are commenting on it and interacting with it, then I feel that my job has been done. Because at least I've done something that I intended to do.
Do you think armchair activism works when people are, either creating content or sitting here talking about it like you and I are? Does that armchair activism actually, is that effective?
We need all kind of activism. We need the Greta Thunbergs also. We need armchair activists also. We need content creators also, because, that's how people are. You need all kinds of people to make the world. So I appreciate what all these... the A22 network is doing, for example, let's say in Europe. They have all these organizations under them. Recently, the people who threw, for example, the cake at Mona Lisa, soup at Mona Lisa.
The soup.
And before that, there was a cake also.
Yeah.
And then they have all these protests at tennis games, and there was one at billiards game also. We need that also.
They're becoming more and more disruptive. What do you think of disruptive activism?
I feel it's necessary.
Yeah.
It is necessary because
even if it's pissing people off.
It is supposed to piss people off. It is supposed to do that, and that's why
that's what it's achieving.
Yeah, and it has come to a point where if people don't listen to you, you need to
you need to go where they're at. I think
you need to get aggressive about it. There's this organization called Climate Defiance in the US. They literally go to these press conferences and these dinners by all these big CEOs, and then they ruin their dinners and then they shout slogans. That is exactly the kind of thing that they need to do.
So you support that?
I support that because we need that also.
Okay.
And if you don't do that, who else will? Because it's a matter of our survival. And if on one side, if all these big oil company CEOs are getting big fat paychecks, and if these companies are earning billions in dollars, there's this one statistic that, if you earned $30,000 since the day Jesus was born, you still wouldn't earn enough in profits than what Shell did last year.
Absolutely. And subsidies on top of that.
And they're still being given subsidies. I don't understand why.
Billions and trillions.
So you need to get aggressive because the people are not listening to you. And that's where I think the younger generation is doing the right thing.
Would you ever do any kind of disruptive activism at all? Would you take to the streets? Do you see yourself protesting? Do you see yourself doing, throwing soup at paintings for that matter?
I thought about that. If it comes to that in India, then I will have to.
You will do it?
I will have to if it comes to that. But in India, I think we are a different country over here. We have different issues and we deal with issues in a separate way. But what they are doing in the West is exactly what is needed right now. They should have started a few years ago. But in India, why not? Okay.
How does activism work in this country according to you? How do you get people to hear about things that you do or to tap into them? Is there religion that plays a part? Does psychology play a part? Is there a tactic that works in India to get people to listen to what you and I are talking about?
Honestly, I haven't figured that out yet.
I think you're figuring that out as you go.
Yeah.
And method to the madness, right? Like there must be some strategy, something that clicks, something that sticks. Maybe you'll figure that out as maybe a year more into.
I haven't figured that out yet.
Into content. Are there any other celebrities talking about environmental issues? Do you have a eco-celebrity crush?
No. Oh yeah, of course.
Was that a note to celebrities or was that
no? There was a note
crush?
to the crush on Indian
crush.
Celebrities, because there's no one I have a crush on in India who's talking about. But
from an environmental point of view.
Just from an environmental point of view, I think Leonardo is doing the best work. He's the only person who has been at it since the past many years. Since I think Titanic came out, since then, he's been active when it comes to environmental issues. I mean, the whole movie Don't Look Up was... There's a scene where he's talking about, where he's venting his frustration out. If you remember that scene where he's being interviewed, he's on news, he's live, and he's venting his frustration out that can't you see the meteor is coming? Whereas basically a metaphor to his frustration about the climate crisis is coming. And
exactly.
He didn't need to act in that scene. He was just being himself. It was just...
I think the metaphor was very clear. I think the parallels that he drew and a lot of maybe news interview clippings that were taken was what was actually said about climate crisis in a lot of, I think, live TV interviews and stuff. So I think he drew that parallel really well.
I have a tremendous amount of respect for him.
So Leo's your eco-celebrity crush.
Not crush, I look up to him that way. Yeah.
Hero.
Yeah. If everyone started doing what he's doing, imagine where we would be at right now.
But there's a lot of backlash that he gets as well, right? Private jets, big yachts, I think traveling around for conferences
and just
having that footprint. So what do you think of the backlash and the hypocrisy that we live in? Maybe being in the movement, sometimes you might be vocal about it. You might be, the biggest microphone, the biggest advocate for that particular cause. But at the same time, when you get backlash on your personal lifestyle.
So I've been reading about this a lot, that the climate issue is actually a class issue also.
It is.
It is, because you can't expect to use a cloth bag and think you have saved the world, whereas the billionaires are taking their jets for a 10-minute ride.
And shooting it up in the space as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is a class struggle also. And
how does that balance out with the admiration is what I mean. Like, of course, he's doing great work in the environmental space, but at the same time, he also gets this backlash.
I also don't know what he's doing at an individual level. I don't know whether his house is solar powered. I don't know whether he lives a sustainable lifestyle. I don't know all the details. So it's bad for me to make a judgment on him according to this. But yes, there have been things that he's been taking private jets. And I read something there. He also had said that he's working on it or something. So I'm just waiting for it. But at least I know that he's saying the right things.
Okay.
And he's been at it.
Yeah.
Since the past many years.
Yeah, I think that's important, to be honest. Like, important. I agree with you. It is a class issue. I recently gave a TEDx on this, that the top 10% of global owners are the biggest climate influencers because they have the biggest impact. So it's honestly their responsibility to cut down on their consumption. And all of these high emissions consumption that you think about, whether that's their stock, their investment, the big cars, the jets, all of that is, what adds up to it. So if we get the top 10% to shift, it's going to be really easy for the rest to follow.
Yep.
So I think the responsibility is definitely on them, and
it's on them.
We should be doing a lot more, being a part of the.
There should be a lot
10%.
more pressure on them to be mindful of what they're doing.
100%. But yeah, at the same time, we need them to be talking about it. So the fact that Leo's doing it, he is the climate influencer that maybe the world doesn't want but needs at the same time. What does sustainability mean to you?
Just being mindful of what I'm consuming and how I'm consuming it.
Thank you. Thank you for this. Thank you so much for doing this with me and for doing the work that you're doing. How can we support your work? How can we find you? How can people follow you and the channels and the platforms?
You can find me at, I'll give a P2C.
Please, all yours.
You can find me at instagram.com/Aalekh Kapoor. And I also make videos on YouTube Shorts. Just Google Aalekh Kapoor. I'll be there.
That's how.
You can support me by just sharing my videos. That's all the support I need.
On family WhatsApp.
On family WhatsApp
especially
groups.
that.
Or on just sharing it on Instagram as messages or just commenting on my posts.
Positive comments. A lot of engagement. We'll get
any kind of comments are good comments.
Okay. It's all open, guys. The floor's open. Thank you so much, Aalekh. This is really cool.
Nice being here.
Good luck with everything that you do. And I hope you see a tremendous amount of growth on the platform and
Same
with the content you're creating.
I really hope this podcast does well, because this is something really interesting. Never heard of a podcast on climate issues.
I think, like you said, we just need more people being human microphones for climate, for sustainability. And the louder our voices are collectively, I think the more muted the other noise becomes, right? Whether that's the oil lobbyists or the meat dairy industry. So I think it's just about us being louder than everything else and everyone else out there. Yeah.
Be loud.
Be loud, be proud about it as well. Be proud of it. And even if it's different from what everyone else is doing. So I think that's important.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. It's really cool. Thank you.